Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Bordertown Strange. I'm Pam, and this is my co-host Jess.
Hello.
And
Sunshine in front of me.
oh, you do, don't you?
I
Oh my
do.
gosh, how funny! Tonight our show is all about night marchers and the Darkwatchers. So this could be a fun one. There's going to be all kinds of funky things to talk about. But before we get started in that, we want to welcome all of our new listeners and members to the channel, as well as first timers in the chat. If you're not joining us live but listening on replay, thank you to you and welcome to you as well. So before we really dive in tonight and start with the what the weird word, Jess, do you want to do a little bit of housekeeping?
Yep. It's just the huge again. So, like Pam said, thank you to all of our old and new listeners and to all of our old and new subscribers. We thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed yet or liked our page, take a second to go and do that. Give us a thumbs up and share, or hit that bell so you know when we go live on YouTube. And also, if you're listening, we are available on all podcast platforms, excuse me. So check out your favorite one, and if you can't find us, let us know so we can fix that issue. Otherwise, we would love to hear your stories or your topic ideas. Let us know down in the comments or send us an email and let us know what you would like to talk about, or if you have a story that you would like to have told. Maybe we could even have you on if you'd like.
That would be
Just let us know
fantastic.
about that. Yeah. Also, we have Paracon coming up here very, very soon. Pam and I are feeling the tick-tock of the clock, let me tell you.
Big
It
time.
is September 27th. All day. It starts at 9:30 in the morning, and we're going to kick off with lots of panels and lots of presentations, a workshop given by Brian Terrell of Red Dirt Cryptids on how to hunt Bigfoot. Christy Campbell, our favorite psychic medium, is going to be giving an hour-long open room reading for free. There's going to be vendors and food and tons of raffles and just so much fun stuff to do. So make sure you come and join. All of us, it is absolutely free. No one under the age of 12, please. Also, on Brian's workshop, if you're interested, there are no pre-sale tickets to this. Show up that morning. There's going to be 20 tickets available, first come, first serve. So get there early and get your name in. It'll be $10 each for a 2 hour long private kind of session with Brian Terrell of Red Dirt Cryptids. And I believe some of the other Red Dirt Cryptid guys are going to be there helping him out. So you get some firsthand talk about what it is they do and how you can do that too. And I think that's it. Did we get through everything?
The guys are the best too, the Red Dirt Cryptid guys. Neither one of
Yeah.
us can pronounce things tonight. We're going to warn you now. Ian, we
Yeah.
were laughing backstage hoping you'd be here because we're going to massacre everything. We were trying to pronounce some of the Hawaiian words backstage. We decided we'll pass on that and we just put them on the screen.
Yeah. So you can mispronounce them at home. Yay.
Words are hard, Enzo. That is our motto. Words are
Yeah.
hard.
It looks like we have lots of people in the chats. We've
We
got
do.
Ginger's in and Tony's in. Hi, Julie. Hi, Alicia. Oh, Alicia's in today.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's favorite, Enzo and
Ian's in
Ian.
there and Sharon's in there.
Yeah.
So, hey to everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. That's exciting.
Yeah. This should be a good one. There's some creepiness going on with these topics.
There's a lot of creepiness. So yeah, we for sure. I don't even know where I was going with that, but yeah, there's a lot of creepiness going on. Do we want to start with the what the weird word?
Yeah, let's start with that one.
Okay, let me get
So,
it pulled up here
but
real
let
quick.
her pull that up. This was my week to choose. And I chose the Estes method this week. And while it doesn't have a whole lot to do with our topics tonight, it's still something that we bring up a lot that I know not a lot of people, either they don't know what it is or they don't know a whole lot about it. They've just seen it on their, favorite ghost hunting show on TV, and they're not quite sure what it is exactly, or even its origins. And I think its origins are just as important. It's
For
kind of
sure.
interesting, and this is a new thing. This was well, I shouldn't say discovered. It was kind of invented back in
Mhm.
2016. So the Estes method. Hold on, let me pull up my my screen a little bit better so I can read. So the Estes method, or the SB7 box experiment, was named after Estes Park, Colorado, and the Stanley Hotel, where the inventors, Carl Pfeiffer, Connor Randall, and Michelle Tate, worked and first conceived of the idea in January 2016. So, by tapping an SB7 spirit box into soundproof headphones, the receiver, who is blindfolded, can neither hear nor see the questions being asked. The receiver speaks aloud anything heard through the SB7, giving an ultimately pure answer to the questioner. So, what this has done is it has taken out all the middlemen.
Mm-hmm.
When you have multiple people hearing what's coming through the spirit box, all it takes is the first person to say what they think they heard. And now you've influenced the entire group to have heard what you heard. And it leads into all sorts of false positives and things like that. It's just not the best way to go about things. One person can hear a multitude of different things than the person right beside them. So,
and you may miss the true meaning, but somebody else may have been thinking of something, but if they hear that first person, it may go out of their mind and they're just like latched on to what the other person is saying.
exactly. Stuff can get mixed or can get missed because of it, because the whole crowd's busy going, oh, did you just hear that? And then there escapes something else. Pam and I have done that before, talked right over the top of other
We have,
things.
unfortunately. It's really disappointing.
It is. However, if you have a dedicated receiver, just one person hearing it without any outside background noise, without having known the questions that was asked, without having knowing what is happening in the room because they're blindfolded, you're going to get the purest kind of answer. And as Pam will tell you, because she's kind of our resident Estes method chick, I do it too, but she's really got a handle on it. You actually start picking up a little bit more than what is just being heard. You start kind of feeling things, smelling things sometimes, just a general feeling that's not existing in the actual room you're sitting in. It kind of becomes its own little box with you.
Yeah.
And you're starting to pick up on things you wouldn't normally pick up if you were just outside with a group of people listening to an open ghost box playing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you want to say about that, Pam?
I always want to point out, and if you guys hear us, and we do talk about the Estes method pretty often because we utilize it so much. We always do try to give credit where credit is due. You don't hear a lot like any of the ghost hunting shows unless they have Greg and Dana Newkirk on them. You're not going to hear the names Carl Pfeiffer, Connor Randall, and Michelle Tate in conjunction with that. I think it's a disservice because they are the ones that conceived the idea. I know Ian said, let me pull his quote up here. I think it's based on an earlier method of sensory deprivation using white noise and strobe lights. It's similar, but it's a little bit different. I haven't done the other one. Now, there's one that you can use a Frank's box along with, but I know what you're talking about, Ian, and the name escapes me. Let's see what Enzo's saying here. I've been a receiver for the Estes session before. First thing I heard was, "Why aren't you dead?" Yeah, that was at McIntyre Villa. That was wild.
Our spoiled Enzo, who had like the ultimate first time experience.
We messed up and took him to the McIntyre Villa for the first place for him to ever really truly ghost hunt. And it's a tough one to follow because it's so active and so cool. He got to experience a little bit of everything, and he will tell you it got to the point to where you would be trying to go to sleep and you would constantly hear footsteps, and he would be like, "Oh yeah, it's old hat at this point." Yeah. Alicia said, "I'd love to volunteer to do this." You should totally try it. It's so much fun.
It's fun, and it's also a little overwhelming if you're fairly decent at it. I've many occasions we always keep somebody nearby to pull Pam out of the experience nicely
before I fall out of my chair.
There's all sorts of things that happen, especially if you stay in it for a little bit too long and you're really deep into it. I do want to touch on, so when it was invented, so Pfeiffer, Randall, and Tate, the reason why this was happening at the Stanley is because all three worked there. So at one point, the Stanley Hotel kept a staff just for the ghost tours. And for they would hold little like ghost sessions. You could pay to go stay at the Stanley and then go to do like a little seance session or go on a ghost tour or just a class on the history of the Stanley and the hauntings there. And those three, among some others, were a part of that group. And they were constantly trying to figure out new ways to establish the hauntings and check the veracity of them and how true are these, can we actually trace these names back. And this was one of their ideas. It is very active at the Stanley when it comes to ghost box sessions. They talk constantly, but they really wanted a way to see if they could filter it properly and really glean some good information out of it. And that's how the Estes method was born. Now, the picture that we're seeing here that Pam put up is actually from the Hellier documentary series, and in it is Carl Pfeiffer. He's the one that's blindfolded with the headphones on.
That's Connor. Connor Randall.
Oh, Connor, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's Connor sitting there,
That's
and they're working through, a Estes session right there. If you're interested to see how they really work, I would suggest watching the Hellier documentary. Start with the first one and work its way through. They use it often all the way through, and you can really see how it works and sometimes how it doesn't work. It's not always, something that works with whoever they're talking with. And oftentimes they'll end up having hearing outside discussions. They're not even answering their questions, which is something we've also ran into.
A couple of times.
Yeah.
We had a really interesting one happen in Independence, Kansas, which is not too far away from us. We were in a private residence, and you're completely sensory deprived, so you've got the noise canceling headphones on, you can't hear anything, but it's plugged into an SB7, so you just hear the static, basically the white noise, and you're blindfolded completely, so you're not catching cues from anyone. You're not, focused on like headphones. So it makes you think of sounds. So, you come up with a word for that. You're just focused on what's coming to mind or what's coming through your ears. And obviously you can't hear the questions that are being asked at all. Sometimes it's hard to even feel people in the room with you when you're that sensory deprived. But they would ask questions and I had no clue what they were asking. I never do. But I would just say what was coming to mind. And the things that I was saying weren't making sense to them. And Jess always documents, she's notebooks. And she does this on investigations too. She marks the time and what's said, what the question is, what's the answer is, things like that. And by the time they pulled me out, they were like, had already been talking amongst themselves. They're like, okay, she's not answering our questions. She's hearing conversations that are being held. And the things that were being said made us we ended up going to the local library in Independence and digging through some of the historical records up there. And we went to the History Museum and looked some things up and actually found some crazy stuff that we didn't even know about. I didn't know. It pertained to a race riot that had occurred in Independence that neither of us even knew happened at the time. And I had mentioned something about they hung him from the trestle, I think, or something like that. And that there is a mass grave somewhere. We didn't know that someone had been hung from the train trestle, but they had been. I mean, I had never heard of that. In fact, we went to the library. The lady that worked there at the time was like, I know what you're talking about, and immediately went and pulled some documents for us to look through, and we were just floored. So sometimes it's not the questions that are asked that are answered, it's something else entirely that you're hearing, and that's occurred other places too.
Yeah.
Am I sounding muffled again?
You are. It's doing that thing where it rotates once you've talked for a little while, it starts to muffle you a little bit.
Oh, self-censored, dang. How rude.
That's what we've been telling you about. It's been happening a little bit lately in the last few podcasts.
I wonder what's up with that.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so Julie said, I thought it was invented by someone trying to reach his daughter. That's Frank's box. That's a different method that you're thinking of. somewhat similar, but entirely different at the same time. Hellier is amazing. Enzo said, might be time for a rewatch. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's a comfort show at this point, kind of. Julie said the problem is it's easy to fake. Not really, because you don't know what the questions are being asked. So
Yeah.
if you don't know what the questions are, you can't fake an answer to it, you know.
Yeah. And I will say, like, and the Hellier group is known for doing this too, and we do it too. We will often send half of our group to another part of the building that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
like a floor away, and have them ask questions. And we'll set it up with a timer and be like, start asking questions at this exact time. And that's when we'll make sure that Pam or whoever has the headphones on, and we start the SB7 up, and then they have so long to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we allow her, on the floor down or so. We did that at the Sally house a couple of times.
I did, yeah.
It still absolutely works. So,
It does. It's
yeah.
crazy.
If you want to fake something, you can fake anything.
Well, that's true.
If you want to, if you want to do it for TV or for, for points, cool points, I guess you can fake anything, but it really does work.
And we're not. It's something you need to consider too. When you look at the reasons why we do it because we're interested, we're fascinated. We don't have a reason to fake responses because what's the point? I mean, all you do is clutter your data, and we don't want to do that. We really want to focus on figuring it
Yeah.
out, figuring things
We're
out.
we're not interested in getting our own TV show.
Mm-mm. Fakers do not put on noise canceling headphones on correctly, or the ones asking yell beside them. Are you talking about ones that you've seen on TV? That's possible. But
Well,
something
yeah.
else you need to consider, reality TV is not real. It's TV. It's entertainment.
Mhm.
So it's not entertaining if you go into something, and a lot of times we do the hurry up and wait. We don't always get responses. We'll do it
Yeah.
for a little bit, and if nothing's happening or if we're not getting anything, we'll stop. It's not worth the time at that point. We may try it again later, and we may have a great session later, but at that point in time, it's just not working. But that's not entertaining when it comes to TV. So they have to come up with entertainment, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're not huge fans of TV shows, the ghost hunting TV shows. Even the ones that really started out credible at one time eventually turn tails
They
and
did,
become
yeah,
quite
because
obviously
they had
they
to
had to
keep
keep.
up that entertainment value, and you don't always get it. So
Yeah.
what we were talking about, if you're not familiar with it, it's Hellier, and you can watch it on YouTube, and I think it's still on Prime. It might be on.
Hmm.
Oh no, the Unbinding's on Tubi. It might be on Tubi. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is great because they didn't make this as reality TV. This is made as a documentary,
Hmm.
and they made it for themselves. It was never, they did try to actually pitch it for TV, and they were like, this is great stuff, but you need to fix this and this and make it entertaining. And they're like, you're missing
No.
the entire point,
Yeah.
just by saying that. If you want to see how real investigations happen in pretty much real time, watch these guys, because I love the first season. They're searching for goblins in Hellier, Kentucky. Basically, is what it boils down to. And this might be a bit of a spoiler, but their favorite saying, and they made T-shirts out of it, was "One star, no goblins." And it's because they're documenting the search. They're not tying everything up in a nice little neat bow at the end. They're showing you what truly happens and what they go through, and all the research that's involved, and all the people they have to talk to, and the places they have to go. And it's really cool. I
It
think that's
is.
why I like it so much.
And it's deep in synchronicities and the craziness that, I mean, I can't speak for other paranormal researchers, but when it comes to our group, we always know we're onto something because the synchronicities
Mhm.
things start connecting to other things you would never guess, and things double back on themselves and then ends up nowhere and you feel like you're chasing your tail half the time. And this really focuses on that. And I like the fact that they're actually quite honest. There are times when it goes dead for them, and they'll tell you, okay,
Yeah.
2 months have passed and nothing has happened. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, this new thing came out of,
Left field,
left field, and
usually.
here we go again. And it's taken us on a completely different route. And at the time that we found Hellier, that it kind of came out and got big, was the time that our group was starting down a tailspin of weird synchronicities and stuff changing for us. It was really the time that we started embracing things beyond just ghosts.
Hmm.
We started embracing cryptids and Bigfoot and realizing that all of this stuff was connected. So I think that's why we love Hellier so much. It kind of came at just the right time.
It did because we have. If you guys are familiar with us, you're familiar with the fact that there's some really weird things that happen in our neck of the woods that we've taken notice of. We've researched for a while. There's times where we get in a little too deep and we have to back out.
Yeah.
When stuff happens that freaks you out and you don't know what to do with it. You know, we're not scientists, but there's also really no scientists for this field when it comes right
Right.
down to it. Everybody's kind of blind, but we're all trying to figure these things out. So, if nothing else, we're there to document what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, what we're finding. And that kind of leads me to the next thing. Again, Jess is known as Notebooks. And when we go out, she's our documentarian. She documents times in words that are said, things that are occurring, and constantly. And that's how we have located time slips, is through things like that. But it's also, man, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Do you know where I was going with that?
I don't.
Darn it.
We
Oh,
warned
I know what it was.
everyone.
I know what it was. So she's our documentarian, and she'll take everything down. And sometimes there was one time instance where we caught a really good time slip that Jess and I experienced, and it was, let's see, probably a few weeks later that we went out with the rest of the team, did some sessions out there, got some information, documented it. It meant nothing to us what we got, and we're just like kind of throwing our hands up in the air. Probably 5 years later, we were looking
Hmm.
back through some old notes and ran across a phrase that had come across her Ovulus, which is a machine that will, when you ask questions, it will give you answer or give you words back, or even sentences
Hmm.
sometimes. We had documented it. It meant nothing to us at the time, but when we went back and looked through our notes, it meant everything. And it took us on a route we needed to go at that point in time. But 6 years later, so it's like, what is time? It's obviously not linear. The
Yeah.
information we need pops up at the weirdest times, but it's always when we need it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Pretty wild.
Yeah. Which is absolutely right there. Tells you need, if you're going to be any kind of investigator or a researcher, keep everything.
Hmm.
Keep your notes from all of your trips, all of your investigations, because you never know when one day it's going to be absolutely pertinent to what you're working on. We At the time when we discovered that, we had something we were working on that we just couldn't figure out, and then just flipping through those notes, it was like, aha, we had the
We
answer
were
all
at my
along, we
we
just
were at
didn't
my
know.
dining room table, and Jess was across from me, and I'm flipping through, and I looked at that, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's right here! Our question, our answer is right here." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I turned it around to show her, and she's like, "Holy crap, that's crazy!" It
Yeah.
was neat. It was We were both like goosebumps moment, because it was super exciting. But yeah, we have our weird little freak outs every once in a while with cool stuff that pops up. So, and in that way, it reminds me of Hellier. I think that's why we get so excited about it, is because we see some of the things that we experience and we do in how they're doing it. And it's
Yeah.
really cool.
It is very cool. So, like if you get some time, check it out. It's free
Mhm.
on YouTube. I still think it's free on Amazon, maybe. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it is.
But go check it out. There's also a second season of it. They waited a few beats and then continued because they thought the story was about done and then realized that it was just going to pull them right back in again. So you get to go on another session. They're actually getting ready to release the third one soon, I'm hoping.
They're filming. They're actively filming right
Yeah.
now. So yeah.
But yeah, check that out. And in the meantime, if you've watched The Hellier and you want just a little bit more of them, and I are quite fond of their Haunted Objects podcast that you can
Yeah.
watch on YouTube too. They are a hilarious group, which I think you have to be when you experience the kind of things that they experience and that we experience. We all seem to be a little zany. But what they do is they travel, they collect haunted objects that people don't want or they send to them, and they display them and talk about them. And this podcast is based on those objects. They'll pick one object and just do a deep dive on it, and it is incredibly entertaining. So make sure you check out the Haunted Objects podcast.
They're getting ready to come back, and I don't know if you know this, Jess. I'm part of their Patreon, so for a couple of bucks a month, I get to see what's coming up and what they're actually doing and things like that. But they released the other night that Connor, who works with them 6 months out of the year, the other 6 months out of the year, he's actually working for the Capitol of Colorado. So he's in the Capitol building. He's the one that calls the minutes and all that good stuff, calls the votes, counts and things. This is Connor right here. So they've only really been able to do the podcasts and things 6 months out of the year. Well, this last year was Connor's last session. He has quit the Capitol, and he actually just moved to Cincinnati with his girlfriend, and he is the first full-time employee outside of the family of the Newkirks of the Haunted Objects podcast.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, super
Cool.
exciting. And he's going to, so they'll be able to release a lot more podcasts, and they'll be able to do a lot more things now because he is there with him. It's not just a 2-man show now.
That's awesome.
I know.
Yeah. So go check that out. Super
In
fun.
case you guys haven't noticed, we really like the Newkirks and their stuff. So I really like how they do things. So
Maybe one day we can have them on. We'll be big enough in our britches to have them on.
We wrote out at the beginning of the year our what do we call it? Our pie in the sky guests, basically.
Yeah.
And they were at the top of the list. Yeah. Ian said that's certainly a career change for Connor. It sure was. And he's been doing this for years, but this is the first time he's actually stepped completely away. He originally was going to school to be an attorney. And when he met Greg and Dana and got included, he was like, his parents are like, yeah, this is my daughter that does, I can't remember what she does for a living, but it's something really cool. And this is my son that chases goblins, kind of thing. But they're super proud. Too funny
yeah.
though. Okay, now that we've completely
Gone off
gone
the
off
rails.
topic. Yeah.
We've been hanging out with Mark and Phil too much.
We're out in the weeds. Okay. Should we actually get to the topic at hand then?
Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about some Darkwatchers.
Sounds good.
All right, so Darkwatchers. Do you want to start out or you want me to?
You start and I'll jump in. How's that?
All right. So Darkwatchers, this one has always been a really interesting one for me. There's nothing scarier than a shadow that just looms over you and doesn't move. I don't know about you, Pam, but it freaks me out.
It freaks me out too.
Yeah, the Darkwatchers, they are native to the Big Sur area in California, basically the Santa Lucia Mountains. They have been there since before the Native Americans were there. The Native Americans, I can't remember I didn't write down which Indian group that was.
Which tribe it was?
Yeah.
It's the ones that are from California.
There you go. It exists within their earliest lore, within their earliest legends and stories. So they've been there for a long time. No one is quite sure what they are. But they're described as tall black figures that are featureless and often wear brimmed hats and carry walking sticks. We actually mentioned a little smidgen of this back when we did the Hat Man, just solely because they're known for these what people assume are hats. No one's actually seen like clothing. They're usually a silhouette or a shadow of some sort. They're always seen between twilight and dawn. No one has claimed to see them up close and up close and personal, and they will disappear as you approach them. They kind of just vanish like a mist. They're known to be quite enormous too, anywhere from 7 to 10 feet tall, and sometimes even more than that. They're more often seen standing far away up on the hillside in long lines. So looking that far away and that you can see them up above the tree lines, that's really amazing. So as it's the Kumash Indian group. I did write it down. So they were also seen by the early Spanish settlers in the area. They were the ones that actually named them the Darkwatchers. Sometime around the 1700s is when they were moved into that area there, and they actually stayed out of the mountains just for that reason. And then, of course, if you go and you look these up on the internet, you're going to find the same exact story reprinted over and over and over again. Like the first 18 pages of the internet is the same write-up.
You see Atlas Obscura, and then that article's taken and twisted. Just a few words are switched around, and yeah, it's a lot like that.
I pulled one of them, so I'm going to read from it so you guys can get a general idea of what the internet says, and then we'll deep dive it just a little bit. So, author John Steinbeck mentioned the Darkwatchers briefly in his story Flight, which was part of his 1938 collection of short stories, The Long Valley. That passage talked about a man named Pepe who spotted one of the strange creatures during his travels, and here's a little excerpt from that. Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so, and his eyes sought the top of the ridges ahead. Once on a white barren spur, he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked quickly away, for it was one of the Darkwatchers. No one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never to show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business. Poet Robinson Jeffers also referenced Watchers in his 1937 collection, Such Counsels You Gave Me and Other Poems. There, he says the following in The Mysterious Beings. He thought it might be one of the Watchers who are often seen in this length of coast range. Forms that look human to human eyes, but certainly are not human. They come from behind ridges to watch, but when he approached it, he recognized the shabby clothes and pale hair and even the averted forehead and concave line from the eye to the jaw, so that he was not surprised when the figure turning towards him in the quiet twilight showed his own face. Then it melted and merged into the shadows beyond it. It was also mentioned by Steinbeck's mother, Olive Hamilton. She actually told of an actual experience that she had. She told tales of days as a young teacher riding through the remote woods of the mountains on her way to teach. She told them that she'd seen the Watchers several times and even traded with them, leaving gifts of fruit, nuts, and flowers in a shaded alcove near Mule Deer Canyon and receiving gifts from the Watchers on her return trips, which frankly to me sounds more like a Bigfoot type of situation.
Yeah.
Which could be because Bigfoot is also heavy in the Big Sur area. So I think some of these stories, you probably could go hand in hand with more of a Bigfoot situation. And if you're looking far away, and you could definitely see a Bigfoot up on the mountain, it would show up as black.
And about 10 foot tall.
About 10 foot tall. Yeah. So I'm not saying that the Darkwatchers don't exist, because I actually found quite a few stories that was quite compelling. But I do think some of these stories have gotten mixed in to what probably was most likely a Bigfoot, if it was anything at all.
Which makes sense because, again, we always go back to you've got the three camps, the UFO, the Bigfoot, cryptid and the ghost, camps. And if you don't have a frame of reference for something, you're going to go to the first thing that you can reference, which
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of cases, especially that far back, would be ghosts, would be, some unseen entity like that. So if they saw Bigfoot, that may have been the first thing that came to mind or made sense to them was,
Yeah.
you know, it's a ghost. It's a see-through, you know, it's something that just melts away when you look at it or when you acknowledge it. That's very Bigfoot-esque. Is that a good
Yes.
word?
Yes, it is. Um, the Big Sur area is also known for little people and imps and good all sorts of. It's a high. It's not a super high strangeness area, but it's a high strangeness area nonetheless. Um, I think oftentimes with places like this, when it has a something big associated with it, like the Dark Watchers, any and all paranormal, supernatural, cryptid, strange activity is going to get blamed on the Dark Watchers.
Mhm.
Um, like with any other place. So I think some stories that are associated with them probably aren't Dark Watcher. Not saying that Dark Watchers aren't real. I actually truly think there's something to this because
I would agree with
um,
that. There's too
just how
many.
yeah, just how far back the history of them goes through so many different cultures, people who came through. I mean, there's just a very deep seated history of it. So there's something absolutely to it. But I do think that they get blamed for a lot of different things.
I think they do too. And you guys know I'm big on the Fae. Um, and this always gave me a feeling that they're probably something Fae related. And when you hear us talk about Fae, a lot of times we do call them little people. It doesn't always mean in stature. That doesn't always mean they're, little
Mm-hmm.
bitty people running around. It's just what they're called. And some of them are known to be human sized or larger. So is it
Yeah,
possible? Could be. Could it be Jen? Could be.
could be.
That's another one that it could be, especially with the I'm watching you, but I'm the second you acknowledge me, I'm out of here kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So
something, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're on your roll.
Something else. Yeah, right. If I can find my notes here. Maybe you want to go ahead till I find my notes.
Okay.
Um, I kind of ran across some here. So
Okay.
one thing that's really fun now, Jess has talked about Steinbeck, which is Flight. He wrote that in 1938. Short story from the Long Valley collection, and she kind of talked about a little bit what was said there, which is really interesting, and the fact that his mother reportedly had a belief in the Watchers as well. Um, What's interesting, I ran across something as kind of a literary lens that talked about Steinbeck's reference, maybe suggesting that the Watchers embody a kind of moral ambiguity, something better left unprovoked kind of thing. So in Flight, in the story Flight, ignoring the Watchers becomes a survival instinct. And if you look at the time when this really started, and especially when Flight was written and before, back in the 1800s or further back, survival instinct, you had to have it or you weren't going to make it very long. Um, and so this might be more of one of those um, kind of like a fairy tale. Is it there to make sure that you don't get yourself in trouble by following something you shouldn't be? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it is interesting to note.
Hmm.
Um, so I was kind of looking into some of the people who've poo-pooed it, the scientific reasons why it's not true. And all of it's the same stuff they always throw at you. It was pareidolia. People are just seeing things because they've been walking through the trees for too long. So they think they're seeing shadows out of the corner of their eyes. But there was one in there that I was really interested in. I'd never heard of it before, but I think it's good to know. It was called the Brocken Spectre effect. Did you read about that, Pam?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Brocken Spectre effect is an optical illusion where the observer's magnified shadow is seen on the clouds, which
Mhm.
amplifies the shadow size before it evaporates. It was first identified in the Brocken Peak of the Harz Mountains in Germany. When the sun is low and the conditions are right, a shadow is cast by the walker onto the mist, making it appear as a tall, shadowy figure. The water droplets that make up the mist can shift around, causing a disorientating effect as though the shadow is moving, sometimes even towards the observer themselves, which I thought was really interesting. Although I can't imagine that that would account for the majority of the sightings, which are far away and they're seeing them up lining the mountain ridges. I
Mhm.
don't think that someone standing, a quarter mile away or in a car a quarter mile away is their shadow's going to reflect onto some clouds that far. You know what I
It's
mean?
pretty far-fetched. It
It
really is,
is.
especially if they're seeing them up on ridges when they're down
Yeah.
below. I
Yeah,
mean,
it doesn't work.
yeah.
Now, I think it does account for maybe a small percentage if people are out hiking and they're really up high, it's very misty, and maybe, they don't know something about that. However, the watchers are almost always seen in large groups. So I really don't think that this truly applies
And that's
to,
fascinating, the fact that there's normally more than one and that they're usually lined up. And
yes.
um, I always think of what's that movie? Nick Cage and Meg Ryan, about the angel.
Oh,
What is
yeah.
that
I know
called?
what I can't remember. I know
It's
what you're
where
talking about
he
though.
falls to earth so he can be with her. I can't
Mhm.
remember what it's called. Somebody will know. Somebody threw that in the comments because that'll drive me nuts. I should know it. Hmm.
Yeah.
Can't
I don't
remember.
know. That was the only like naysayer scientific one that I could find that I thought was applicable at all. Oh, Lacey says it's City of Angels. There you go.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Lacey.
Lacey.
Yeah, the Brocken Spectre effect. It's the only one that I think has any kind of validity, and it would only concern ones who had supposedly seen one high up in the mountains by themselves, and they only saw the one
Mhm.
and it disappeared as they walked towards it. I could maybe see that. However, a lot of these people in that area, they live in this area. They hike in those mountains all the time. You would think that they would certainly know about this happening that they would see. It's kind of like it always throws me back to like I can't stand it when people poo poo people's like cryptid experiences, people who have lived in the same area all of their life. They grew up there, their families have lived there for generations, and people have the audacity to tell them, oh, that's just a common loon that you saw. It's native to that area. Well, yeah, they know that it's native to that area. They grew up with them. They know what they look like, they know what they sound like. How dare you tell them that what they experienced was something so common? It drives me insane.
Mhm. You know,
Just, ugh.
it is because an outsider that would come in and profess to know more than the people that live there about the area they live in. That's
Yeah,
icky.
it's
Um,
very icky.
you know what's interesting about it is they talk about this seeing the Dark Watchers in Santa Lucia Mountains, but there's also global echoes of the Dark Watchers. Do we want to go there yet, or do you have some more to talk about on it?
You can. I have just a little bit on that. You've obviously got more than me. I was just going to say there's a handful of American Indian tribes
Mhm.
that have dark watchers also. Is that what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, I was going to talk about some others too that I
Go
found.
for it.
That's pretty interesting. So we've got worldwide, honestly, but when you have different places in the world with these things, they don't always call them the same thing, and that's what we're seeing here. Like we've got and I'm going to butcher these, so sorry. The Slavic domovoi, which are household spirits that are said to silently observe, and they're there as protection. And they're often unseen, but their presence is felt, especially when boundaries are crossed. And that's kind of what the Dark Watchers are. They're kind of there to say, hey, don't cross this. But like the Watchers, these guys are more guardian than aggressor because I don't think I ran across anything that said that the Dark Watchers were aggressive at all. It was more
Mm-mm.
of a, hey, I'm here to observe. Hey, I'm here. You need
Yeah.
to pay attention to your surroundings, to what's going on. Then we've also got the Celtic slouch, which is a host of restless spirits that travel in flocks, sometimes seen on the horizon. Sounds very familiar to the Dark Watchers. And they're said
Hmm.
to watch from afar, but they also say that sometimes they abduct souls. We don't really hear that much with the Dark Watchers, anything like that happening. But they are of liminal nature. And people, when they see them, they feel like a silent menace that kind of mirrors the Watchers vibe. But if you consider the fact, as humans, if we don't understand something, it's very hard to fight fear. There's that fear of the unknown, and it's hard to push that aside for that curiosity over fear kind of thing. And that could be what this is why they feel menacing, is because we fear the unknown. Um, and then you've got the Norse Vardoger. I know I killed it. Vardoger. And this is a spirit double that precedes a person, kind of like a doppelganger kind of thing. And they're seen performing their actions before they arrive. So the reason that they link these two together with Dark Watchers is witnesses often report seeing a shadowy figure watching or mimicking someone. And there's ties to themes, again, of the doppelgangers and premonition with them. And then we've also got the Japanese shoujo and the Yamabiko, which the shoujo are mountain spirits known for their elusive nature, but they also have an eerie laughter. So there's a little difference there with them.
Eh.
Yeah, wouldn't that be freaky? And then you've got the Yamabiko, which are echo spirits. They're heard, but they're never seen. So kind of opposite almost, but they haunt
Yeah.
mountain passes. So there's that tie in with the Dark Watchers. And both evoke the Watchers' twilight presence. So they show in those liminal times of day. And there's that psychological ambiguity that go along with them. And then, like Jess was talking about, we've got the Native American shadow beings. We've got various tribes that speak of shadow like entities that observe but rarely interact. And they're often tied with spiritual boundaries, vision quests, or warnings. And some interpretations link them to an ancestral watchers or even interdimensional guardians, which that could be. I mean, what if that's a very liminal spot, which it kind of is, where it's at in the
Hmm.
mountains? What if it's more of a thin spot where we could be observed without putting whatever it is that's observing us in any real danger?
Hmm.
But when they notice we're noticing them, they back away a little bit, like, oh, they saw me, kind of looking through a window at the zoo at the monkeys kind of
Yeah.
thing. Oh, they saw me. Um, so these are, and then we've got the South American Pishtaco. It's a
Fish
spectral figure.
taco
Pishtaco, Pishtaco. I like pish
sounds
tacos,
delicious.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know Enzo will have something to face over, or to. I was reading his comment at the same time to say about that. Okay, spectral figure said to stalk travelers in the Andes. And though they're more sinister than the Dark Watchers, they do share the Watchers' mountain setting and that fear-inducing silence kind of thing. So, those are my global ones that I wanted to throw in there. Really
Yeah.
fun.
I found, and this is just a few. I didn't really go hard into this because we knew that we didn't want to make these topics gigantic tonight. So, other tribes who have watchers within them, the Nunahi, the Cherokee Nunahi, they of
Hmm.
course are watchers. The Incas had the Apu. And the Aborigines had two different kinds. They had the Wajinas and the Mimais, both two different kinds of sets of watchers that watched over them. Um, they were also kind of like, and I was going to mention this before when you were talking about that, Pam. They very well could be a sentinel
Hmm.
for that space to kind of be like a beware or scare people away. So maybe
Exactly.
they're not up in there when things are active or very thin to keep people from kind of slipping through. Kind of the same thing that Bigfoots are supposed to be known for near cemeteries. I think they were
Yeah,
kind of sentinels too. So,
that's a great comparison there, especially, because we've ran into Bigfoot-like creatures that seem to protect cemeteries. even locally. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So I went and scrounged up a handful of firsthand accounts of people having seen uh the Dark Watchers. And these are recent. So this isn't something, that was seen 30 years ago and no one's really seen it since, and it's just traveled by word of mouth or by the internet. So I'm just going to read a few of them here because I think they're really interesting. The first one I have here, this one was from 2017. My husband and I were in California, going to a wedding. The newlywed couple took us to Big Sur near the Santa Lucia Mountains. As we were sightseeing, I looked at the mountains and asked them about the thin statues that were standing all along the peaks. My uh the gentleman and his wife looked rather scared and asked, "Oh my God, you saw them?" And I asked what the story was with the statues, and they said, "Those aren't statues, those are the Dark Watchers. The local tribes know more about them, but they've been here since the beginning." It creeped me the heck out. So they were
Oh,
just
me too.
traveling along. And she had no idea about them. So, why would you point something out, if you already knew about them?
Yeah.
The next one I found was from 2014. I was hiking up a remote trail. I was about an hour up into the mountain, no people, no cars in sight. As I was hiking, I had the eerie feeling that I was being watched. I looked up at the top of the mountain and I saw black figures. I waved jokingly, not thinking that it was real people, but they waved back. Thinking I was maybe tripping or that it was the trees waving in the wind, I took a puff of my cigarette only to see one figure blow out a plume of smoke as well. I started seeing it floating and almost floating vertically. I ran like hell back to my car, spraining my knee in the process. And
There's that mimic.
that's another little tell. If you do get close enough to kind of see where their feet are, they very rarely touch the ground. They're usually floating just above it.
That's
So
interesting
that's
though, because the way you said that, that's that mimic thing. He blew the cigarette smoke and then the thing mimicked it.
mimicked it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yet another thing, people said that you're just seeing your reflection. If you were just seeing your reflection, it would have certainly done it the same time that you did it,
That's true.
not just after, as if it was mocking you.
Yeah, that's more of an
Um,
echo, which doesn't happen when it comes
yeah.
to something like a
Um,
reflection.
this one is called The Dark Watchers. I'm a little on the fence about it, but I'm going to read it and let you all and let Pam decide what you think. It's a very interesting one, though. Um, Many years ago, I was with a friend driving through a dirt field. It was dusk at best, and there was no way we were going to make it out of the field before it was pitch black. We decided to sleep in the car. As we were killing time in the pitch black, we were hanging out inside and outside of the car, killing time, sharing smokes, and we started to distinctly see what looked like black shadows, evenly distributed, completely encircling us. They did not move, they stayed motionless, but were of significant size. Whatever these were seemed hunched over, perhaps kneeling. Time passed, they never moved, and though we walked around the car and got in and out of the car to see if what we were seeing was some sort of optical illusion, yet we couldn't explain or discredit what we were looking at. So they spent the night awake in this field, just being encircled by these things. I don't know what that is.
I don't either. I have no idea. It's so strange. I would love to be in a position where we could try to figure it out though. Um,
Oh, yeah.
if anybody knows of a place that things like that pop up that's relatively close to where we are located, let us know.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to check out.
The last two little short ones I have are both from 2013, although from completely different people. Um, I remember one day my friend and I were coming back from Los Angeles. As we drove, I saw something at a distance down at the end of the mountain. It was a really big human figure, but it wasn't. It had a black cape, kind of like a Grim Reaper, and it was leaning over, holding onto a staff at a puddle of water. It was daytime, so I could identify that it wasn't a person. I asked my friend what she saw without giving her my details, and she said exactly what I saw too. She almost lost control of the car, and when she looked away at it, and I begged her to go back and see, she said, "No, the Dark Watchers are real."
That's, that just jogged a memory for me. And I can't remember what I was researching, but I ran across a story about some kids. They were out on their bikes on a dirt road that in a pretty rural area, kind of like where we live. And they had come up over a hill on a road that they knew very well. And when they looked down one way, they saw somebody walking away from them. And they had the black flowy cape kind of thing. And so they were like, "Hey, who is that? We need to get out of here." But there's that always that one brave kid that's like, no, I want to know who it is, who's out here trying to scare people. So, they got them to ride their bikes a little closer and say, hey, and it wouldn't stop walking. And then finally it was a little girl and she yells at it and she's like, hey, and it stops walking, but it didn't turn around. So the others are like, yeah, I'm out. And she was brave enough. She threw her bike down and walked up to it and said, who are you? And it turned around. And when it looked at them, there was no face. It was all black
Oh,
with a staff, no face, which immediately freaked everybody out. One of the kids like fell off his bike and just ran. And I think the girl ran too. They all booked out of there. But it took them 2 days to go back and find their bikes because they were so freaked
wow.
out about it. But they swore this was probably in the 80s or 90s when this happened. They swear to this day, and their stories match. They all agree this is what they saw. They don't know what it was. They were made fun of at the time for seeing it, but that has not deterred them from sticking to that story. So, what was that? It just gives me that same feel of what you were talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a crazy. I don't know.
Julie said,
Um,
no, yeah, no kidding.
yeah. Yeah. The last one I have, also from 2013, we were coming home when we saw a very large dark figure standing at the edge of the mountains. We drove by it slowly, behind the figure, noticing it staring off into the distant valley. It appeared to have a large cape with straight shoulders that were very broad. It looked like it had a hunch on its back, but when I got closer, it stood almost 10 feet tall. It did not notice us driving behind it, but when we found a spot on the cliff road to turn around and get a better look, it was gone. And
That's
later on,
crazy.
yeah. So these things are, whatever they are very much real in that area. They have a long, long history. Um, if you're ever in that area or if you are from that area and you have a story, let us know because I'd be
Oh,
super interested.
yeah, we're fascinated with this stuff for sure. That's why we made sure when we were looking at what shows we were going to do this season. This was one of them. Was make sure we get the Dark Watchers in there for sure because I've always been fascinated. There's one particular book that I have been searching for forever. I can't find a copy of it that is remotely inexpensive, and it's In Search of the Dark Watchers. I think Jess she was looking for one this past week. How much was the one you ran across?
There is one copy available on Amazon from an outside seller, and it's setting at about $1,600 right now. And this is not an old book. This was published back in what,
Wait,
2013?
yeah, it might have been earlier than that.
Okay.
It's not like super old. It's not antique by any means, but it's old
Mm-mm.
enough. You would think it wouldn't be that expensive. And it's not a big book either. It's mostly landscape paintings by Benjamin Brodie.
Mhm.
And then just this pretty much a short story is what it boils down to. They call it Field Notes by Thomas Steinbeck, which is John's son. But it's not a big story. I have even as a librarian, the first place I go is interlibrary loan and start searching there. I located one in a library in California, and they will not release the copy to send to us. So I was like, can't you just like get the words out of this one portion? And they won't do it. So boo,
Lame.
boo, big
Yeah.
time. But yeah, excellent book. Another
Yeah.
one, just pulled a couple of books here. I'll pull those up before we move on. Dark
Yeah.
Watchers. Ooh.
Yeah, this one here is really good. It has a lot of the personal stories and stuff in it, and a good history on what they think some of the origins are. Or I mean, they don't know the origins, but the earliest accounts of them. It's just a really good. It's a fairly quick read, a good all around book. And remember, we'll be posting links to these on our page in the coming week. All the
Was this one
resource
on
material.
Kindle Unlimited
Yes, it
or
is.
not?
It's
It is cool. So
uh
if you
huh.
have Kindle Unlimited, this would be a good place to find these for just a monthly subscription as opposed to having to purchase the separate books. Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, we're not ready for that yet.
No, we're not ready for
Yes.
that yet.
So that's our Dark Watchers. There isn't a whole lot written on them. It's one of the strangest things about this strange phenomenon. You get something this big, and usually you can find so much written on them. There's usually books and books, all sorts of tales, and what are their origins. This is one of those big ones that not a lot has been written about for some reason.
Which is
Why people.
yeah,
It's
kind of
weird.
interesting on its own is because it is such a big thing. Why is there not more written on it? It's wild.
Yeah,
Somebody fix that for us. Yeah.
exactly.
Enzo said Death can't even go out for a stroll without being hassled by the local youths. And Ian said, oh, so Dark Watchers are just, oh, wait, I got out of order there. Ian said, where do you even buy a cape from these days? And Enzo said, Spirit Halloween is where I get all of mine. Ian said, oh, so Dark Watchers are just Enzo out for a stroll. Maybe so. And I'd have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling
Uh,
kids. Awesome.
the
We love our
chats are
Scooby Doo
getting crazy again.
references. That's what's fun.
Yeah, but very little written about, oddly enough, for such a big, huge legend that is still occurring. So,
That's the
you can
interesting
find
part.
lots of it though in the, how I found some of the personal stories. I mean, even if you go to Reddit, which is usually, home to every story you can find, there's very little about it. The way I ended up finding it was I went and hit like Big Sur and stuff like that and found stories about Big Sur. And then you hit the chats underneath those stories. And that's where you start finding the Watcher stories. So I
Yes.
had to kind of go in the back door to get them, but they do exist. They're still very much seen.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of my favorite ones. And you know, in case you can't tell behind me, I kind of like books a little bit. Um, this is one that is on my list. It has been on my list for quite a few years now, and I just can't find a copy. So, if anybody stumbles across one, please let me know. I just want to read the stories in it. Honestly, I'd love to have a copy. I'm not going to say that, but
Oh,
yeah,
it would be nice.
yeah, that's one of those, yeah, out of reach ones.
All right. Are we
I'm
ready to
like,
move on to.
"Mm."
So, this topic of the Dark Watchers prompts us into the Hawaiian Night Marchers. So, it's a whole other kind of procession. Only these move. And this one has always been a big one for me, too. It's a very interesting. And it's not even a legend. It is still occurring today. We're going
Yes,
to get into that a little bit. Did you want to start on this one, or do you want me to?
I can. I can start on this one.
Okay, go for it.
So we've got the Night Marchers. They're from Hawaii, and they're also called the Hua Ka'ipo. Here we go.
Good
Are
job.
among the most chilling and revered figures in Hawaiian mythology. So, what the Night Marchers are, is they are ancestral and spiritual Hawaiian warriors who march through dense jungles of the Hawaiian Islands. They eternally uphold their vows to protect the Hawaiian royalty. That's the big thing about them. And anyone who comes across their path must fall to the ground in reverence, or they will face an untimely death. So, again, they're said to be the spirits of these ancient warriors, right? That once served sacred chiefs and kings. And they do continue their internal march through the islands and through all the islands, which is really interesting. But it's only under very specific conditions that happens. So we've got it's the Ahua Ka'ipo. And they're also known as the spirit ranks, basically. Some people call them the murderous shades since they are the protectors of the royalty. Demons, revenants that haunt the island. I've also seen them called the rabid, galvanized specters of ancient Hawaiian fighters, heroes, and warriors. So we're
Ooh.
getting a little flowery. Yeah, I give up. They get fun with their words.
There
Fun
you
with
go.
words because words are hard. So legend has it that these night marchers, they spring forth from their burial sites or they rise up from the sea on nights that are devoted to worshiping the Hawaiian god of the sea, which is Kanaloa. And they don their battle regalia and then they march towards classical Hawaiian battle sites or other holy sites. The old timers say that the night marchers are normal sized warriors and they're dressed for the battle. They bear lances, maces, other classical Hawaiian weaponry. Um, but they're also accompanied by a marching band that's beating the war drums and blowing tones through conch shells. And the wind carries their song, and all who hear their advancing march meet a tragic end, which is even more than just being in their path. You know, if you even hear them, you're supposed to be in dire straits at that point, kind of thing. Um, I think they're pretty fascinating. But it's also said, and this is interesting because it's kind of mirrors the night watchers a little, or the dark watchers a little bit, is the fact that they float as they cross through the night.
Mm-hmm.
But they vanish before dawn and they leave no evidence of their visitation. All that's left is any poor souls that were bad
In the
enough
way.
to, yeah, get in the way,
Or look.
cross their path or heard, obviously something. But they do travel through the darkness right after sunset and they march as an assembly until just before sunrise. Nothing stops them. Nobody's able to haunt their mass. Now, what's interesting is they're said to follow their ancient paths. Doesn't matter if something's been built in the way, they're going to march right through it. Doesn't matter if someone's in the way, they're going to march right through you. Nothing stops them. And that's pretty interesting. So
Yeah,
that's the big part. I don't want to go through all
it
of what I
is.
have, but yeah.
Well, I interestingly to note, so this isn't just some kind of funny mythology or legend that popped up. It's
Mhm.
actually based in fact. This used to happen with the kings and the queens and the chieftains. They would go on these trails that were kind of pre-built in to go about their things, and this huge procession of people would come with them, like Pam was talking about. They would have their vanguard, they would have their the people closest to them, they would have their drummers and their chanters, and all of them, they would follow in this procession. And if any of the villagers dared be in the way, dared look upon them, they were killed. You
Mhm.
did not look upon your king or your chieftain or anything. They were too above you for that. And they would outright kill you. And oftentimes they would haul the bodies with them. And wherever they ended up, they would use them as a sacrifice to the gods. You didn't look at them. And oftentimes, and it's said now that if you do see accidentally get in the way of the procession or you see the procession, that you're to sometimes strip down nude, lay on your face, and hope and pray that they take pity on you or they think you're crazy. A lot of people say that you should rub urine on yourself because then they will feel pity for you and will or feel disgusted by you and leave you alone. This is what you did back then if you accidentally got on the wrong side of the procession or you dared to look. You could be killed. So this is something that has traveled down, not through legends but through history, and has become a part of this. And Pam's absolutely correct. They tend to kind of just go straight through buildings, and there are stories told where a house was built and they heard a ruckus overnight, and the next morning they got up and there were footprints going all the way through their living room, up the wall, and across the ceiling to get out of the space.
Mhm.
And I also found information. There are maps available in Hawaii when you are going to build a new home or a business or a building. People check to make sure that they are not on a known marcher's line.
Hmm.
because if you are, you're most certainly in a whole heap of trouble.
And who
They
does that
still to
sound
this
like?
date.
We hear that not only in Hawaii, that's in Ireland, that's in, Scotland. That's places where the little people are, where they come through, their procession comes through. Uh, uh, the 12th of Day Danon, when they march through, they don't care what's there. If your house is in the way, they're going to come through it. And there's houses that have like corners cut off of them because they were in the path. Um, so pretty interesting that that kind of shows up somewhere else in the world. And you talk about trying to look at maps to make sure you don't cross these paths. Iceland, they
Hmm.
have um, built roads around places where their little people are, so they don't, bother them. They don't go through their property. They don't bring any
Yeah.
harm upon whoever's building the roads, kind of thing. Ian said, I'd probably just avoid Hawaii, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's,
And so, yep, Iceland is the same with their
yeah.
elves. Absolutely.
Yeah. So people are actually very, very scared of this. It's very deeply ingrained in the Hawaiian culture. Children are taught from the time that they can, acknowledge hearing the
Mhm.
drums in the distance. Um, just nearly everyone in the Hawaiian area that grew up who, have been there for a couple of generations, their families talk about hearing the drums. And the minute you hear the drums, you're back inside and you're not looking out those windows for the fear that it causes.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, so you have the death side of this if you get in the way, but there's also kind of a way to get yourself out of the situation, which I thought was really, really interesting. So they say that if you can't get out of the way of the march in time, or you accidentally look upon it, and you could be saved by a relative who may already be in the procession. So these processions will often take on the dead. Um, and if you have an ancestor who's in it, if that ancestor recognize you and they say your name, or they'll say
Na'u.
Nau, which means
Mhm.
mine in Hawaiian, the other marchers will leave you alone, basically, will walk away from you, or your ancestor might even come to protect you. I found several stories where they had seen the procession before they realized what it even was that they were looking at and heard all this go down, and then had a stranger shadow standing over the top of them while it passed. And later found out that the name that was being whispered in their ear was the name of this ancestor. I found several of those stories, which I thought was just so interesting from different
Oh,
people.
yes.
So, is that really made up when it's coming from many, many different people?
Right?
Yeah. So I did find out, so there's different types of processions. It depends on which trail you're on, or, um, there's ones that are in honor of the deities or the chieftains or the queens or the kings who loved live music or liked music. So you'll hear drumming and chanting most often with those. There's ones who liked absolute quiet, so their marches are completely silent. You just see kind of the torches go through. Um, there's ones where the deities or the kings or queens did not like to march, so you'll see one being lofted in the air, and that's who that's represented. One's this one I thought was really interesting. There were kings and queens who didn't want to be looked upon ever. So
Interesting.
those would always be in the back. So if you see a procession and there's a very large one in the back, that is who the king or queen was. And vice versa. They could be in the front, they could be in the middle. You can tell who the procession was for or which deity it was for at the time by how the procession looks, which I thought was just really kind of interesting.
That is.
Yeah. Um, but the one that's absolutely interesting, they said you can tell the ones that are kind of ordained by a god because the torches burn brighter than any of the others. And you'll find the big torches, one in front, one in back, and three in the middle, representing the five, which is the most significant number in Hawaiian mythology. So if you see one of those processions, you're in luck or you're not in luck because you're getting ready to bite it because you looked at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of kill you either way. Um, so often with these, besides hearing the marching or the drumming or the chanting or seeing the procession of lights, they also carry the smell of sulfur terribly from nearly all the stories that I found. Um,
Yep.
and they're most often seen in several different places, and Pam and I have opted not to give the names of these places where they're often seen.
Allowed
However,
anyway.
yeah. However, like I said, they have maps of these places. Um, these marches will go to these particular places, which I didn't even know about. There are places where uh, battles happened where warriors were forced to their deaths off of cliffs.
Yep.
One of them is called Pali Lookout. It's the Battle of 1795, where hundreds of warriors were forced off the sheer cliffs to their deaths. There's also Yokohama Bay, Makacha Valley Plantation, Cayena Point, and Kalama Valley. Um, and they most often march on the last four moon phases before the moon goes completely black before it shifts back over again. So that's the time you'll most often see these. I think it's absolutely amazing that they're seen so often that they have them clocked like this.
That's
It's
wild.
really, yeah. So, oh yeah, Pam's got those areas up there. I'm telling you, there's some names.
Y'all, we massacre normal English words, and Hawaiian is a tongue breaker for a
Yeah.
Kansas accent for sure.
Ian,
Yeah,
imagine
Ian
getting
could
in the
imagine
way.
getting in the way of the procession, be like Hawaii 5. Oh no. Awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Enzo said
Yes.
Hawaii is beautiful, but most of Oahu feels like a tourist trap. Guam is much nicer. Cool.
There you go. Would you flip over to the books that I
Sure.
posted?
Oh, maybe. There we go.
Okay. So this first one you're seeing here, Hawaii's Night Marchers: A History, by Robert Lapaka. This book is I love this book. Not to mention that it's about the Night Marchers, which I think are absolutely amazing and so interesting. But this gentleman and the lady who wrote it, they did a fantastic job of deep diving this in a way that is completely readable. You can really understand what they're talking about. It's set up in a way that's just fantastic. If you're interested in the Night Marchers, go and get this book. You can get it on Amazon, and it is Amazon Prime. So if you've got your free Kindle reader, you can use it
Yeah.
here.
It's Kindle
It's just
Unlimited.
absolutely interesting. They went down to minutia, and I'm going to give you just a little bit of information. I'm not going to give tons of it away because I think you need to read this book. But um, along all of these internet stuff, and just like the last one, it's literally the same information, just reprinted over and over and over again. They talk about Captain Cook was the first one to really identify these in print, that he was the first one to really write about it, and it's absolutely false. Captain Cook didn't write the first one in 1883, like they said, because he wasn't even alive in 1883. Cook came to the islands in 1778, and he died in 1779, years before that happened. Um, Anywho, that's just a little bit of what they're going to give you. They really take a deep dive in it, and it's just an excellent book, and it's easy to read. So get it if you're interested. Um,
Enzo said, so if you found yourself in Hawaii and you saw the torches, would you go and check it out or stay away?
I think I might stay away or just watch it from afar. If it got too close, I'd be like, zoinks, I'm out of here.
I tend to agree. I don't know the culture well enough to mess with stuff that I probably shouldn't be sticking my nose in.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it from afar.
Yeah. So the first actual published account was in 1883, but it was by Reverend L. Lyons. He reported to Joseph S. Emerson that a friend of his, a Hawaiian man, had witnessed a procession um, and lived. Actually, I don't think he died. Um, but yeah,
That's interesting.
also, going a little bit deeper into the legend, I did find out that in some of the legends, the night marchers will accept a chief or a warrior or a family member into their march upon that person's death. They can appear during the night or day. Witnesses have reported seeing figures with modern day style clothing marching in the procession. So if you're a Hawaiian family and you have somebody that's high ranking, say like in the Hawaiian military or is actual, descendant of somebody very important, the night watchers are actually quite welcome into your home because they're coming to pick them up when they're getting ready to pass to join the procession. It's actually an honor. The Hawaiian mythology and legends are just insane.
You're talking about that. This is a good time probably to throw this in is a little bit on Hawaiian religion on its
Oh, yeah.
own. So Hawaiian religion, it kind of takes indigenous religious beliefs and the practices of native Hawaiians, and meshes it together. It's both polytheistic and animistic, which means there's many gods, and some of them are in animal form. They're not all human. Non-human also would include like the sky or the surf or things that pertain to them in everyday life. But so their beliefs kind of originated with the Tahitians and other Pacific Islanders. Um, and those particular people, the Tahitians and other Pacific Islanders, they landed in the Hawaiian Islands between 500 and 1300 AD. So, you've got this main pantheon. It's got over 500 ghosts, spirits, and minor deities in it. So it's a very huge belief system. And families have their own deities, even. So a
Mm-hmm.
home may have its own deity. So it's a really highly diverse spiritual pantheon. And, it's unlike any other that's in the modern world at this time. So it's not a closed loop where you've got laws, you've got doctrines, you've got dogmas that are set in stone. But what I really like about this and what is kind of unique about it is it's one that's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing with the times. You don't see a lot of that. And that's something that's really cool.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It
All
is.
right. So, um, Hawaii, speaking of that, Pam talking about all these different kind of, how this kind of works. Um, I found lots of other types of ghostly processions just within Hawaii, and outside of. And I'll go over the Hawaii ones really quick. So there's also the Ha'a people. They had mystical powers of the demigods in the form of huge war dogs. The dog people appear in Maui in procession of spirits known as Marchers of the Night. They look like other human beings but have the tails of dogs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. They have the Minahuni, which I'm sure some people have heard about. That's their little people.
Yeah.
They're around 2 feet tall, thick set and hairy, do good deeds, but only at night, and will stop work the minute that the sun rises. Processions of the Minahuni are often reported on nights with a full moon. Reports of people finding small child-sized footprints creating trails through their homes have been recorded. So that's another one. After all of these listings that I'm going to go over here, you got to imagine, is there a safe place to put your house at all on the
Right.
islands? They also have the marching dead. Many areas are known for processions of marching dead. Once a month, the souls or spirits of loved ones who have died in the previous weeks walk in procession to particular sites where they may leap into the Po, or the everlasting light. There are several leap spots all across the islands.
Cool.
That,
That's
yeah,
wild.
it is. So Hawaii is all about their processions. So I went looking and I was kind of astonished to see how many processions. And I'm not going to, read them all, but I grabbed a few that I thought were really interesting. So in Japan, they have the night parade of 100 demons.
I've
Yeah.
heard of that one.
On certain nights, a horde of supernatural beings, referred to as oni and yokai, walk the earth in a terrifying procession. If one is unfortunate enough to come across the procession, they will either be killed by them or stolen away. If you know the correct chant, you will be saved, or remain indoors. Avoiding the procession completely is your only hope of salvation. Does that sound familiar?
It does.
Two cultures that are fairly far apart from each other.
Hmm.
We have the Panchbaya, which is from Nepal. This procession of 5 or more spirits dressed in white ride horses and cross the countryside from sunset to sunrise, following the same route every night. If you meet the procession, you will become sick or even die. In some versions, the procession is preceded by a black dog. If the witness is able to place himself between the dog and the ghost marchers, he can catch the first spirit and ask for whatever he wants. Only when the ghost fulfills the wish can the procession continue. So that one you get like a lucky. They're probably just trying to get away from those pesky bikins. Yeah.
I like Ian too. He said being dead in Hawaii sounds exhausting, doesn't it? You have to march everywhere. What the
You
heck?
can march everywhere.
Ugh.
Of course, there's the wild hunt in the European countries. A lot of people know about that. The sounds of 100 souls passing through the forest and towns. People encounter the procession at night, might be abducted into the fairy realm or the underworld, their souls coerced during sleep and carried away to join the procession.
Led by the Earl King.
Typically, yeah, the wild hunt is comprised of a group of ghostly hunters with a host of foot soldiers and knights, some bloody and worn and some carrying their own heads. The fairy version, of course, is made up of elves, fairies, or the dead. And sometimes the wild hunt is seen as an omen of a catastrophe or a plague, or will bring about the death of a person who witnessed it. So we've got that. We won't go too deeply into that. That's its own show.
That's another one though, where people are pulled into it. Modern
Yes.
people can be pulled into the wild hunt too.
Yeah. The next one from Switzerland. Give me a second. I had to phonetically spell it out. The Detoten Protestion. This procession predicts deaths. The witness will recognize one or more of the marchers. Those will soon die in the order in which they marched. So they'll kind of see them before they pass in these.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Another version called the Gretzug or the Ridge Train or a Symphony are seen on mountains. They are accompanied by a dull murmuring, the sounds of marching, drumming, and whistling, and sometimes music, weeping, or laughing voices. When the ridge train passes, one should always stand or lie down off the path. If you do not, the dead will have power over you. So it's the same kind of situation.
Yeah, prostrate yourself before the procession kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last big one I'm going to talk about is the La Santa Campana, and this is from the Iberian Peninsula. It's also called the Holy Company. This is a procession of souls wearing white hooded cloaks. Their duty is to announce deaths and visit homes where someone is about to die. They march 2 by 2, carrying candles. They're usually only seen as a long row of lights. Animals will fall silent or run away. You can smell melted wax. You can hear the sound of prayers, songs, or small bells. And the group is always led by an aesthetia, the soul of a living person, cursed to lead the procession every night. The aesthetia grows weaker every night until the body dies and is forced to join the procession until he finds someone to take his place, freeing his soul.
That's interesting.
It's mean.
Well, that's kind of that makes me think of I know in New Orleans where somebody, if they try to get you to touch elbows, it's because they want to transfer the curse basically so they can break free of it and pass it on to someone else. Kind of makes me think of that for some reason.
Oh, I bet COVID was horrible there. When
Oh,
everybody was shaking with their elbows.
yeah, no, nobody shook hands at all, I'm sure. for
Um,
sure.
I did pull up a few stories. If you, I don't know, are you interested in hearing a couple of the stories that I found, like
Absolutely.
firsthand
Yeah.
accounts? I thought it was interesting. Um, this one says, my grandpa was George K. Spencer, and he retired as a city building inspector in 1968. He spoke and read Hawaiian fluently. It was his first language. He used to be called in to read the Mahil documents that showed boundaries, particularly those that were the Kulina lands. He said you could tell the night marcher trails because they were broken lines. They did not change from survey map update to update, whereas boundary lines were solid and did change. Often they were not straight lines. They went around certain, I don't know what this word is, a PU or a large pohaku. He was called often to look when people were building, as they wanted to make sure they weren't in a night marcher's line or near one of the marchers' ala, or that they oriented their doors a certain way so that they could march straight through the house directly. And I did look that up. A lot of homes in Hawaii are built with doors straight through so
For
that
that
if marchers
reason.
come through, they have a straight shot. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
Yeah. Um, the next one I found, a young man who had planned a weekend stay arrived at a fishing area after working all day. He passed the time catching fish for bait and sliding them down the long lines that were thrown out as close to the offshore channel as possible. With a final check of his lines and bells, he decided to settle in and sleep for a bit. The man, who was too tired to clear out a space to lay his sleeping bag, decided that the superstition was just that and curled up in his sleeping bag right in the middle of the flat trail to catch a late night nap. He woke up from a nightmare just before dawn and felt aching pains throughout his body. When the sun finally rose, the young man saw what looked like human bite marks all over his body, even
Ooh,
in the most sensitive areas. The older Hawaiians told him that he was sleeping on the marcher path used nightly, and this was the reason that no one should ever sleep on the trails. They bit him,
interesting. Yeah,
even
that's
in his
crazy.
most private areas.
Oh, dang.
How did he not wake up? Is what I
Yeah,
want to
that's
know.
wild.
Yeah,
Enzo said it best. Yikes.
yeah. This one I thought was almost kind of hilarious because apparently even Kmart is not above the night marchers, right? A former Kmart opened many years ago, and stories began to surface about spirits haunting the stockroom, and that once the entirety of the store was found in shambles when employees would come to work in the morning. The overnight stock team was responsible for filling the shelves when no customers were in the building. It was the mid 1990s when the Kmart store in Wakali was newly built. It was only a little after midnight when the electronics started going crazy. The lights in the store became painfully bright and then slowly went dark and then turned bright again. This went on for a few minutes until the lights went back to their normal brightness. As it was just in time for their first break, most of the employees retreated to the break room. Suddenly, one of the employees heard a loud scraping sound to his left, and when he looked in that direction, he could see the end of one of the shelves moving quickly in his direction. Other team members were running towards him, screaming, trying to get out of the way of the long shelves that were moving fast across the floor. They said no one was pushing them. Before everyone finally made it out of the emergency exits, employees said the store was filled with the smell of sulfur and the deafening sounds of drums. No one wanted to re enter the store until the manager arrived with the morning crew. Daylight revealed that all the shelves were shoved to one side of the building as if a giant hand had come in and swept them aside. Another time, a woman reported that she and some friends were hanging out in the parking lot late at night when they witnessed a line of floating lights coming through the middle of the Walmart building. The lights got brighter as they entered the parking lot and then disappeared as they approached a chain link fence. There were no apparitions carrying torches or sounds of drums or marching feet, but 14 people saw the little balls of flames following one another in a very long line.
That's
Do you,
wild.
in a
That's wild.
Kmart. So the marchers were like, I don't care about your blue light special.
Yeah. You know, so in another life, I worked for CMI, which was claims management that handled claims for Walmart customers and things. And we had stores that were opening in Hawaii. And I know at least one of them, and I want to say both, were halted because of archaeological digs.
Oh,
Because the
yeah.
second they started to build, they ran across some things that had to absolutely be taken care of, very carefully. So, that kind of is a throwback to that whole respect the ancestors, respect the land,
Mm.
respect all of that. I think that's something I'm not sure that there is enough of that sometimes. So going back to being bit all over the place, Enzo said all that marching must work up quite the appetite. And
A little
Ian
hungry.
said an army marches on its stomach and someone's bits apparently. And in regards to Kmart, Enzo said even the dead enjoyed the blue light special. Yes, they did.
Yep. It's
Very
crazy
cool.
stuff.
Fascinating place though, really interesting. There's some really good documentaries that are out on YouTube in regards to the Night Marchers. If you are want to dig a little bit deeper into it, find out some more about it. There's some really good stories. Like Jess said, she found some different personal accounts all over the place. So
Yeah.
we'd encourage you do your own research on this one because it's a fun one.
Absolutely. We could go all night with just the stories. I'm going to leave it at that. Because we need to get moving on to Notebook Game. But like I said, if you're really interested in this topic, this first book, the Robert LaPaca book, is really great and available on Amazon. I will tell you, the Night Marchers book by Helen P. Hoyt, the second one that you see there, it's available. It is harder to get, and it is fairly expensive. It's not as expensive as the 1600 book that we were talking about before, but it is fairly pricey. It is a very old book, but it has a lot of personal stories in it that
Nice.
were well documented. I've yet to see this book. This is not a book that I own, and I didn't have the money or the time to get it in time for this particular podcast. But if you're super interested in it and you're like diehard, that's a book to get.
It never
So I've
fails
heard.
because we try to, that's what we try to do is because we know we deep dive so much stuff. We try to set out what we're going to have shows on at the beginning of the year so we can start gathering the books and, locating them and things. And it never fails. We get down to the week of, a few days before, we find a prime piece of
Yeah.
research material that we want and we just can't get it in time. Never
Yeah.
fails.
Never fails. Love to have it. If somebody has it and don't want any more, send it our way. We will gladly take it.
One of these, that's one of our dreams, our pie in the sky dreams, is to have a huge clubhouse with a library that has all of our research material in it that we can peruse and let a select few come in and look through as well.
Yes, with big comfy chairs. And I
Hmm.
want floor to ceiling books with a cool sliding library ladder. Is that too
Have
much
to
to
have the
ask? I
ladder.
think not.
No, have to have the ladder for
Yeah,
sure.
and maybe a resident library ghost. That would be fun.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a library ghost and a library cat. We need a cat too.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, so anything left on the Dark Marchers or the Night Watchers before we
I
head to
think we
Notebook
covered
Game?
them. I thoroughly enjoyed both these topics, so I'm really glad we got to do
Yes.
this show. I was looking forward to this one.
Yeah, one of the topics we've always wanted to kind of do. And knowing us, we'll probably touch back on it again some other time because it's going to touch some other topic that we're going to talk about. So we'll get to dip our toes back into it a little bit. But
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I highly suggest you go, if you're interested at all, go do a little bit of your own research. You're going to find loads of stuff. It's just a super interesting topic. All
It
right,
is.
so I think it's time for Notebook Games.
I think you're right. Woohoo.
All
Julie,
right,
it's really
so
interesting. Thank you, Julie. We think so too. That's a fun one for
yeah,
sure.
it is a fun one. Um, Everybody knows the notebook games, but in case you're new, I have 5 notebooks, 1 through 5. Pick 1 through 5 and pick a page 1 through 100, and I will read whatever is on that page. So everybody start throwing your numbers up there, and we'll start hitting these. I did grab a couple of notebooks I don't think we've touched before. I've been
Ooh, fun.
slowly cleaning out my library area, and getting stuff pulled out from like nooks and crannies and trying to consolidate a little bit. So,
Sweet.
yeah.
And if you're new here, this is what Jess is known for. She keeps copious notes in all these notebooks. And instead of having a notebook for every topic, she has a notebook for that point in time. And so she'll write all these things down and then she'll put all these reference marks on them and in front of the book so she knows what's in each one. But it's really
Yeah.
fun to actually, it was Enzo that is in the chat. This was his idea right before we started the first show. He was like, it'd be really fun to do a game of this, make a game of these notebooks. And so the notebook game was born. So
Yep.
thanks again, Enzo. We like to give credit where credit's due.
All
All
right.
right.
I think we got our first one. I
One.
think Ginger. Yeah.
Yep.
Notebook 5, page 72. This one is on a pterodactyl sighting in Garden City, Kansas from
Ooh,
1994.
nice.
Yeah. So we're going to
That's
go
not,
right to
not long ago.
pterodactyls. Yeah, it's not very long ago in the grand scheme of things. It says, I was running home on a dirt road when I noticed this thing above me. It was about the size of a small plane, about 30 feet long. There were no feathers on it for sure. It had a long tail with a triangle at the tip and a crest on its head. Its wings were like a bat. The membrane and the beak was long and on the thinner side. It was so large as it flew, or glided, more like glided, above me. It was dark in color, probably dark gray. I was not scared, but frozen in awe. I watched it until it disappeared off into the horizon. The weather was clear. It flew about as high up as the telephone wires, so not that high up at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's the end of that sighting. This is part of the research that I was doing. We've had a string of pterodactyl sightings along the Oklahoma Kansas border for the last 60 plus years or so. And also, it follows along the eastern border of Kansas and Missouri. Pterodactyl sightings up it. We've been having this for quite a long time now. One will pop up about one or two every 10 years or so. We have a little spat of them.
You know what was fun?
Weird.
There's a lady on TikTok, and I can't think of her name, but she goes by Spooky Scary Story Times. And she had a show recently where in the comments it was talking about pterodactyl sightings across the United States. And I was like, we have them right along the Kansas-Oklahoma line. And they thought that was very interesting. So we may get a request to share some of those stories one of these days.
That'd be cool. I'd do
That'd be
that.
really cool.
Yeah,
Super
people
fun.
never think about pterodactyls. We have them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a wild one.
Yeah. Now, their origins, I don't know. Is it a time slip? Is it, a leftover? Who knows?
Ooh, Ginger said very cool. She's incorporating pterodactyls into summer reading next year. Yeah, dinosaurs is our summer reading theme for 2026. So we're
Cool.
stoked.
All right. Okay, so Julie's, right? Julie's is the next one. This one is actually a listing, and this is from the 27 Club. I don't know if you all know
Oh,
what that is.
yeah, we've talked about doing a show on that too.
Yeah, and this is part of that original research I kind of started on, but I've never finished it. But it's a listing. So, those of you who may not know, the 27 Club and also the White Lighter, it's a part of it, is it's part of a theory. It's a list of musicians and artists and actors whose deaths occurred at the age of 27. It's amazing how many did. And they were usually from, besides suicides and overdoses, there was also some very strange deaths that went along with it. If you're anything of anything, you usually end up in the 27 Club. And this is just a listing of it. So I'll go through. I don't know if I'll even read them all. I don't look how many there's are just on this page, and that's not all of them. It
Yeah.
goes on for like 3 more
It's a
pages.
thing. It's a true thing.
Yeah. So, but this one starts with the earliest one. They're in order of their deaths. So this one starts out with Jesse Blevin, R&B singer. It. So when I say this, I'm going to say the name. It lists what they were or who they were associated with, the date of their death, and then how they died. So I'll just read through some of them. Jesse Blevin, R&B singer, February 6, 1960, car crash, foul play. Rudy Lewis, The Drifters, May 20th, 1964, overdose. Joe Henderson, R&B singer, October 24th, 1964, heart attack. Rockin' Robin Roberts, The Fabulous Wailers, December 22nd, 67, car crash. Malcolm Hale, guitarist, October 30th, 1968, carbon monoxide poisoning. Dickie Pride, rock singer, March 26, 1969, drug overdose. Brian Jones, Rolling Stones, July 3rd, 1969, drowning. Alexandra, German singer, July 31st, 1969, car crash. Rhea Barduck, singer, 1970, fire. Alan Blind Al Wilson from Canned Heat, September 3rd, 1970, overdose. Jimi Hendrix, guitarist, 1970, asphyxia. Janis Joplin, songwriter, 1970, overdose. Jim Morrison, The Doors, 71, heart failure. You get it. So I'll just go through here maybe some of the names everybody will kind of know. Pete Ham from Badfinger, 75, suicide. Gary Thane, bassist, overdose. All of these, 27 years old. It goes on and on and on. Who else do we got on here? Everybody know Kurt Cobain,
Yeah.
Nirvana,
Yeah.
94. Jonathan Brandis, actor, 2003. Amy Winehouse is a
Yeah.
27er.
Yeah.
The list goes on. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and just keep going because it'll bore everybody to
Is
death.
Janis Joplin one? I can't remember.
Yeah, Janis
I thought,
Joplin, I
yeah.
listed.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. My phone's
Yeah.
going off and I'm distracted.
she
Shocker.
actually, she died 1 month after Jimi Hendrix.
That's right.
Yeah.
Youngblood, he just turned 28 August 5th, and he did a post of, dudes, I made it. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I did it. I survived 27.
Yeah. Another interesting side note to this story, and I'm one of these days we're gonna do like maybe we'll do a show where there's quite a few of them that aren't big enough to kind of be their own thing, but we can kind of touch on this one a little bit. The interesting thing to the 27 Club is there's a side to it. The famous white lighter. So in almost all the cases of these 27 deaths, they've almost always had a white lighter on them. And the interesting thing about it is that people say it's a white Bic lighter, which can't be true because Bic didn't start making colored lighters
Yeah.
until I think the late 70s or something like that. But there were other companies that made white colored lighters.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be a
Interesting.
Bic.
That's
And they were on nearly all of these people, this white lighter. So
That's wild.
interesting.
That makes you not want to carry one for sure. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm a smidge above the 27 Club membership qualifications, but
Only by a couple years.
just by a couple of years.
But yeah, 27 Club. If you don't know anything about it, go look it up. Super interesting, kind of crazy stuff.
You know what we should do? And I know we've talked about this, and I want to say it's on our list. Well, I know it's on our list, but maybe we could combine the 27 Club with
Mm-hmm.
Crossroad Demon, Crossroad Deals. That would be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe
That would
they would
be.
each be their own show, honestly. That'd be
Could
fun.
be. That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Ends is
sorry.
next.
I'm
No, you're fine.
swirling.
It's
Yeah.
fine while we're trying to find the next one.
Book
Okay.
4, page
Yep.
74.
I've got it pulled up here. So, this one is on, I'm in the middle of talking about the elephant slabs.
Oh, nice.
Um, okay, well, so before I read what's on this page, you need to know a little backstory to this before we hop into it. So, when we were doing Forbidden History with the guys over on What If Tomorrow on the Fringe, we did an entire section of elephants in the Americas. And when we say elephants, we mean African elephants.
Yeah.
They absolutely were in the Americas, regardless of, scientists and researchers saying otherwise. They came up the bottom of what is now the U.S. and traveled up the rivers. Half of them, they split. Half of them went up into the Ohio River Valley, and the rest of them followed the river chain over into New Mexico, Arizona area, where it turns to desert. And unfortunately, those African elephants died because there was not enough food. I think takes isn't it like 20 bushels worth
It's
of
a lot. I can't remember how
grain to
much.
keep
Yeah.
one fed just like in one day? They
Yeah.
perished. Years later, here back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and even further, they started uncovering the areas where these Africans had come in with their elephants, and they had left pottery behind that had pictures of the elephants on it, and they left behind these slabs that they found. And this is where I'm going to start off at. The elephant slabs have been deciphered. They are written in the Malinki Bambara language used by the Mandi tribes of Africa. So that right there shouldn't be here if the scientists and stuff are correct.
Right?
Right? On the first slab, it says, "The desert is hot. Birds are numerous, white, just as the go, which is the police bird in Africa. The elephants are sick and angry. At present, the sick elephants are considerable. Life is spent removing the sick elephants, dried up by the sun. Many are sick. The elephants are pushed down into a hole and buried, and sealed on the flat terrain adjoining the bed of the river at the dry place, the zone of inundation. My existence at the present family habitation is lean. On dry land adjoining the bed of the river, break up the terrain for cultivation and cut through the earth. Break to pieces the flat land to carve and make the family habitation. Warmth, water, sun is what that transferred over to. The second slab they found said, uncultivated land, hunt the birds, cook the elephant. It is easy to roast. Grow on the flat terrain the maize. In arid, uncultivated land, there are also bears. As like the aside at the end.
There are also
OPS.
bears.
There's flippin' bears here too. But yeah, that was part of our forbidden history stuff.
Forbidden history, yeah.
Yeah, like the page before that, because I'm talking about the elephant slabs, but we're also talking about the fact that they found drawings of American Indian corn in caves in Africa when American Indian corn wasn't even supposed to be traded until like the 1700s, but these caves go back to like the 1200s.
Yes.
So absolutely there was movement and trade and cross ocean voyages being made clear back then. And if you ever read anything that tells you otherwise, just poo-poo it because it's ridiculous.
That's what we're learning to do because, yeah, there's a lot of really fascinating stuff that it's just, if you follow everything that is said, you know, this is the only way, and they're not considering any new information or anything like that. That's when you really need to question it, because just because someone's tenured and they're still alive and you don't want to hurt their feelings and be ostracized in your community is not, I mean, it may personally be a reason not to say anything, but it's not a reason to chuck it all. It's a reason to make sure it's there when that tenured person is no longer. So, you know, if that's the case, if that's what's holding you back, hang on to that info and share it because that's important stuff.
Yeah.
It really is. Soapbox time.
All right, we got Enzo has
Enzo. He said, "Yep, it's all his fault for the notebook game." And we appreciate it so much because this is fun. We always have such a good time. I know we kind of killed Jess probably reading for that long, but it's so fascinating.
Okay, so Enzo's page is on the Tinley Park Lights. So the Tinley Park Lights is a UFO one. This happened. Tinley Park it was one of the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. In case you don't know where that is, this happened August 21st, 2004. It was witnessed by thousands of people. It's one of the mass sightings that we've recorded here in the U.S. It was also seen by hundreds of concert goers exiting the Tweeter Center after an Ozzy Osbourne concert. They reported seeing groups of 3 white and red and sometimes multicolored lights forming a triangle. They appeared to move in a coordinated pattern and would change between moving and sitting still for 30 minutes at a time. They made no sound. Witnesses captured photos and video footage. And they did. There's a lot of that out there. If you want to go take a look at it, look up Tinley Park lights, like throw in 2004. There is so much footage of it because everyone in this city was watching it, including a butt ton of concert goers that had come in from out of town to see it.
Tinley, Tinley. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you look it up, there's your spelling.
Yeah. Take a look at it. There's lots of video footage. You can watch video of it.
That's really cool.
Quite amazing. Yeah. 71 days later, on October 1st, 2005, the lights reappeared. And again on the 31st, nearby towns also reported seeing the lights, including Orland Park, Oak Forest, Moking, Madison, and Lake on the Hills. A similar light formation was also reported on the 2 days leading up to the Tinley Park sightings in British Columbia and Minnesota. And then I have a little note to myself down here. In 2008, History Channel's UFO hunters took footage took footage to professionals who measured the object to be around 1,000 feet wide and appeared to be attached to a solid object. So it wasn't like, well, I mean, they didn't have a lot of drones back then, but it wasn't a situation where it was like 3 different things. It was all attached.
That's interesting.
And about 1,000 feet wide. So
wow,
big dude.
That was.
Yep. And that's the Tinley Park lights.
Nice.
All right.
We got Ginger on there. She said the Notebook game rocks. We agree. We're glad you agree too. Thank you.
I'm glad you all enjoy my weirdness.
Yeah.
Who knew that one day my strange obsession with putting everything into notebooks would come in as entertainment for people? You're welcome, I guess.
It really is. It is a lot of fun, especially when it's stuff that, we've researched over the years to see it pop back up. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Oh, Enzo said that episode of UFO Hunters is free on the History Channel's YouTube page. Cool.
Absolutely. Oh, you're welcome, Enzo. And yeah, thank you for giving me a big job to do at the end of every podcast. It's not a job. It's fun. It's nice. It's like Pam talking about, stuff pops up. Stuff pops up that I forgot that I had. It kind of reminds me of some things. Mm-hmm. So it's helping with research a little bit because I'm remembering, oh yeah, I had something about that. Now I can go back and look at it.
Absolutely. Tony said, thank you. Yay.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad everybody likes it.
For sure.
All right. So we're coming down to the end of the second hour. So I think we're all kind of getting ready to go here. Give me just a second. Again, thank you to all of our subscribers and our watchers. Thank you for hanging out in the chats. Take a second if you haven't yet and give us that thumbs up, that like or share, hit that bell, all that good jazz. And remember to listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Our entire back catalog is free for you to hear. We apologize for the first couple. We always say that. We apologize for the first couple.
The very first one was great because it was our podcast warming party and we had some of our friends on it. It was a blast. This next 2, you might want to just please give us some grace.
Yeah. Maybe. Catch us live every 2 weeks on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central. We will be releasing what the topic is for the next one soon on our Facebook page, so watch for that. I think that's it. Catch the Paracon here in Caney on the 27th of September. If you aren't in the area, is most likely not going to be in the area. Everything will be running live on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page too, so you can absolutely go and watch it. But if you are in the area, come and join us. It's going to be super fun. And I think that's it. Do you have anything more, Pam?
We're going to be live on those, but we're also going to go ahead and save those on YouTube. So if you can't catch it live at the time, you're more than welcome to go back and watch it. We encourage you to. We got some really great speakers lined up this year. We're really looking forward to it. Brian's going to be running his workshop, which is going to be absolutely amazing. And then we've got some really, really interesting people. Who all do we have? We've got Ken Miller that's going to come
Hmm.
in and talk. Adrian, oh Lord, Adrian Scalf. I do a muck with him. I can't believe I forgot his name. Um, who else? I'm
Out of
blanking.
Arkansas. Yeah, Ken's out of St. Louis, Missouri. We're going to have a lot of the red dirt cryptids in. We're going to have
Robert Prevo, Monstrous
Robert Prevo
Arkansas.
in from, yeah, Monstrous Arkansas. We're going to have Jason Robertson, who we had on here
Yes.
earlier, talking about Tahlequah. He's going to be in.
Yep.
Gosh, a whole bunch. Christy Campbell, our medium's going to be in. She's going to do a free
Mhm.
room reading for an hour in the morning. Um,
We've
Lots of
got
great stuff.
Jim Gray. Jim Gray's going to be there. He's got some reel to reels that uh, Doc Jansen from Geneseo, Kansas, who was a UFO researcher back in the day, he went to these people's houses and recorded them on reel to reels in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And a friend of Jim's has taken those and he has digitized them, and they are absolutely incredible. You get the voices from years ago, back when they were known as flying saucers and not UFOs at all, and they're discussing them, and it's just so much fun to hear. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
And our very own Enzo is going to be given a presentation on, UFO photography and how to properly photograph a UFO and log it. So it's going to be super interesting. And of course, great food and all the raffles and lots of vendors and live DJ all day. So you get some fun beats in between. It should be
Yep.
a hoot. Plus, the Caney Car Show is going on that same weekend. It's one of the
Yes.
largest car shows in the area, and they're going to have lots of food trucks and stuff down that way. So you can take breaks. Maybe you there's a panel you don't particularly care about. You can walk 4 blocks over and go see the car show and get some food. So it should be a
Yeah.
good weekend.
Fun day.
Yeah,
And if you have someone in your family that's not so big on the paranormal, but they love cars, ship them
you can
downtown and
split up.
come hang out with us.
Yeah.
Too
And
fun.
Julie, yes, there is a meeting this month. So our
Yes.
paranormal club meeting happens every third Saturday of the month, and it just so happens to fall this weekend, this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Caney City Library. It's
Yep.
absolutely free. Come and join us. We're going to talk about missing time and time slips and all of, how time storms are involved with UFOs. And we're going to do a little bit of paraconning. We're going to talk about some volunteers, maybe,
Mhm.
and some other stuff. So if you're in the area, come and join us.
Yeah, we just figured out. So we're down to where we're having our meetings every Sunday now, to work on Paracon stuff. And, last Sunday, just a few days ago, Jess and I were like, okay, how many weeks are we out? Oh, we're out 6 weeks. Oh, shit, we're out 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, it's
And the
time to,
time keeps marching on.
boy, does it. Does it ever. Ginger
Yeah.
said, Jess's notebooks are very organized and neatly written. I struggle to read my handwritten notes, right? Same.
My writing isn't much better, honestly. I just know my own hand scratch, so I can kind of say what it
There you
says.
go. There you
Yeah.
go.
All right. So I think we're good. We're right almost on time. We ran a little hair over. That's okay. So like I said, thank you everybody for hanging out in the chats. As always, we appreciate you so much. Check out our past catalog if you haven't yet. And we're going to get on with it. Watch for
Mhm.
our coming up episode. We'll post that soon. And everybody have a good night. So keep it weird, keep it strange, and remember it's all connected. Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.